Welcome to the stage. Touch podcast. Welcome to the stage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the stage. This is Sage Touch.
Welcome to Sage Touch, episode 1, kind of. We're redoing some things in Sage Touch as we are normally live, and right now, we are not. We recorded this a few days ago, and it is now Tuesday for when this is releasing, and you are not all watching this live, but we'll definitely be in the chat during the premiere for this. We're rebranding because, there have just been a couple things that have just been a little busy for our schedules, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page and being able to be more consistent with a bi-weekly schedule, we decided let's pre-record this and make this as a video, but also so that way we can also put it out on Spotify like we did with some of the other content like Duality and Scapegoat's Plunder from early this year. With that, Adam, AJ, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
What's today's topic?
So today in Sage Touch, episode 1, we're doing Age of Umbra. We're continuing our series on the different campaign frames. Age of Umbra is the dark and gritty and eldritch horror-y sort of campaign frame. So all you edgelords out there, rejoice.
Heck
Adam.
yeah. I have a tendency to always play an edgelord somehow, and I don't know how I end up there, but every time it seems to happen. So I am very excited to get into this campaign frame.
It doesn't help that every time we run a game in our home games, it's always dark. So I love the grim dark theme. I love gray morality, and Age of Umbra takes gray morality to the nth degree. So yeah, let's take a look at what Age of Umbra actually is talking about. So the tagline here, the first thing that it says is, in a dying world, immersed in relentless shadow, and nightmarish monsters, small communities hold fast to the light, hoping those who can endure can find a way to save this broken realm before all is lost to darkness. It's very Dark Souls.
Yeah. It's your Dark Souls, Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Just anything that you died 1,000 times on one boss on. That's this campaign frame. Death is very prevalent in this frame. I feel like a lot more in this frame than others. If you're, depends on the GM you have, but if your character will probably die at one point in this, at least go to death move. We'll say that. We'll probably go to death move at some point in this campaign.
And if Age of Umbra from Critical Role series is any precedent, spoiler warning, characters die. Characters die a lot. I mean, I think that's the intent. I think you should be jumping into this campaign frame, letting your players know. As a GM, I would be like, hey, build backup characters. Build a lot of backup characters, because your character will likely die, and when they get back to the next town, they're going to be looking for more allies to continue fighting the darkness.
I think for me, I do not have as much playtime on Daggerheart as you guys do, but I can't remember a character of mine dying in D&D. I don't think I've had a true player death yet. I've had a player death where somebody revived me, but didn't have to go through all that for real, right?
Noted. I'll take notes right now.
Yeah, don't you don't
Yeah,
need
I'm
to
trying
do
to think. I don't think I really. I mean, our last campaign, I think I played the most healingest healer, so that was one reason. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of it's a new. I feel like a newer concept of like, hey, embrace uh the morality of or like of your character's morality rather.
I think it's a new old concept because
Yeah.
old school D&D was your characters going in the dungeon and they're probably going to die.
Mm.
And then V came out where you get really attached to your character from a role play aspect. And so I feel like GMs not pull the punches, but the style of game shifts where it's not go into the next room, you're going to die, like as the expectation.
It's almost like Hell Divers, right? If you die in Hell Divers, you don't come back as that character. You just get dropped a new one, right?
a new one
Age
with
of Umbra
same
just-
armor, same weapons.
Yeah, same armor, same weapons. It's just my brother. It's fine.
Which I also think plays into the trope of when a character dies, you just write on their character sheet Junior afterwards, or the second, or you change Bartholomew to Martholomew on the top of the sheet. Which I mean, I think that makes. I mean, it's one of those things you get really attached to the players, especially like the mechanics of it too. But I think Age of Umbra, when it comes to and I mean, even like looking at like the tone and feel of it, you have ancient, daunting, epic, grim, ominous, terrifying, tragic. The themes are apocalypse, corruption, darkness versus light, hope, redemption, survival. These are not whimsy. These are not political. These are everything is out to get you. And if anybody's played Dark Souls before, that first boss, you should not survive against it. If you do, you've probably played a Dark Souls before.
The damn tree sentinel is gonna get you.
No, even before the tree sentinel. Remember the other thing in Elden Ring?
Yeah.
There's that one like six-handed
Yeah,
sword thing.
Yeah.
The best thing, you get to come back and fight him. Anyway, sorry, we're getting down sidetracked. So yeah, this is definitely a campaign that it's super fun. I would suggest if you are the GM and the players, make sure you communicate what's going to happen or what could happen, right? Because a lot of us are used to the 5e. I'm going to build my hero from level 1 to 20 and this is his story, right? So just make sure that's, the campaign frame that you as a party want to run, that this character more than likely will die. But I think it's also a great way to kind of do something different in TTRPGs is that, hey, now you actually get to see that character's legacy live on into someone else. Right? So your character could inspire a whole nother character. It could be the son. It could be a random person. Who knows? But you can actually see their legacy of your character in real time, which I think is a really cool concept.
Which
Yeah,
I
the
guess
story doesn't necessarily just die with your character. It could be even just like you passed through a town and you showed generosity or mercy to somebody, and you come back after your character eventually dies, and you can pick up on these other storylines that you've kind of dropped breadcrumbs on accidentally, and pick one of those storylines up and just kind of run with it.
Which I think then I want to ask this question from a GM to players, because I don't really ever see player or I don't ever get that experience from the player side of things. When another character dies, how do you two pick up that mantle? I've seen it done in post, but like, what are your thoughts in the moments of your characters dying and then the moments of the next session after you get back? Like, what does that look like for you two?
As in my own personal, like my character dying,
like,
or
how did-
any PC dying?
I mean, I would say like another PC dying, because I don't think I've killed you two in longer campaigns yet.
I don't,
But
not
I
that can
have
think of it.
killed.
You kill one friend all the time.
Yeah,
I
because
do kill one
your
specific
cousin.
friend
You kill your cousin all the time.
consistently makes decisions, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the position you should be in. Are you sure? And it's like, yeah, I need to be here. I was like, okay, but yeah, what does that look like for you two as players seeing another player die?
So just from the last campaign we played, I was playing a cleric, and the other character, James, if you guys have met James probably once upon a time, but his character died. that totally set my character on a whole different path of than what I had. My whole character's whole deal was to, hey, no one's gonna die on my watch because this is what I'm here to do. So someone actually dying to my character, like, just set him on this whole like existential crisis. Like, if I can't even do this, what good am I? Like there's a whole lot of player development that happened with that, which I think is good because I feel like it wasn't just like oh, hey, your character died, roll another character, and we just keep moving. I feel like it impacted the story, which is, I believe, is really important when any PC perishes.
Yeah. I think for me, it was the very first like long form campaign we ever played. I was playing a rogue, but I was just new to D&D in general. So I was pretty not passive, but very cautious, right? And that same friend of ours was playing a monk and decided that he was going to go like sneak around and try to, I don't even remember what he was doing, but he got caught and then he got just incinerated. And from my player point of view, I'm just like, shoot, I probably should have done that. I probably would have had a better shot of making that happen. And then from a character point of view, it was a kind of call to, hey, you should have been there. Like that is literally why you're here. It's what you were built for. I was playing a Warforged, so quite literally built for stealth, for just doing all those rogue type of things.
Which I think leans into Daggerheart experience as well. Because I think like in D&D, there isn't a mechanic that says if another player dies or if something happens in the story, you get this from it. You can make it a mechanic, but with experiences, especially if that like changes, like say that happens level 1, right? And you go into tier 2 with an experience, like you can make that experience purely off of the fact that the character died, and now your disposition of the world changes, which I think leans it well, especially like, I mean, in Age of Umbra, I would assume level 1 characters are much easier to kill depending on what you're fighting. And you go into a fight and you are the sole survivor. Like that's a story to tell for your one within an experience, and two for the rest of the players to kind of decide what they want to build next, given that the one player is like what the story kind of is like built around now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think PC death can definitely lead to really interesting storyline because I mean, it kind of has to, because the storyline you had before is it's gone, and I think that uh sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think that it makes a different impact. It just makes an interesting story. If you guys have ever watched, like Game of Thrones or any other of these shows where your favorite character dies in the first season, like that totally sets the whole show off in a whole different direction. So there's always a what if this character didn't die, but there's so many different pathways that it can take. So don't use character death as like a stopping point. Use it to launch off in a different direction.
So like even with that, when a character dies, right, it's a reminder of, we haven't gotten to mechanics yet, but in this world, like that is a dark thing for more than just the sake of the death, right? It's not just we lost somebody, it's also now we lost somebody and other negative things might happen soon. And hey, maybe we need to burn their body, and it's pretty final. So like when we're in this world, there's an opportunity you have to role play some of that death and loss and tragedy, right? Because it's a dark world.
So I guess we should talk about what the Age of Umbra is.
Yeah, probably
Like,
than just talking about player death.
Like it's just talking about this. Like,
the Age of
but
Umbra
what
is
is the Age of Umbra?
You were all dying.
You just
remember
died.
this. Let me tell you that you are all dying.
No.
So the Age of Umbra, I think is the one frame we have the most lore about, because it's the only frame that we have long form story in from a canonical version, literally the people who made it. So we have more lore about like who these people are. Like we saw Critical Role run it, but the premise of Age of Umbra is this god king, Othadius, I think is the pronunciation, betrayed the pantheon. And so all these gods are essentially gone, and you're living in a godless society with all these creatures now without the god's protection now coming out from the world, some even becoming born because of the gods being left. And now all that remains because so much of life has died. Like everyone should have experienced loved ones who have died to creatures, or at least a generation of individuals. Like you've lost your dad, you lost your grandma, you grew up an orphan, stuff like that. Your parents lost their home and now they've evacuated to essentially what's called these pyres. Pyres, I think is what I mean. The pyres are the names of these societies where they revolve around this sacred flame that these towns have kind of protected. Like they don't want outside worlds because outside people to come in because those outside people might be corrupted by Umbra, and then, as we saw in Critical Role, put the sacred fire out, which allowed all these Umbra beasts to enter into the city or the town, which then caused the quest for finding another sacred pyre or firing another sacred flame to fuel their pyre. So it is a dystopian. Like I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic world, and any of those societies, if anybody's seen stuff like The Walking Dead, mistrust is rampant. Like you trust the people that you have, you trust the people you're around, but you do not trust other people, uh,
Does
even
the
though you probably want to, because the greater numbers, the higher chance of survival.
does the lore go into why the gods left or what happened immediately? Or like how long, I guess, from when the gods left did it descend into this just a world full of Umbra and darkness and evil and all that?
I believe it's 100 years. I believe it's at least 100 years where basically the domain is gone because of God King Othodias. It's kind of a little like it's left out there that you're not sure the exact mechanics, and I think it's intentional because I don't think the campaign, at least at level 1, wants you to have the goal of bringing the gods back. I think it wants you specifically, and why it leaves it vague is because it wants you to understand the gods are gone and they're never coming back. So what do you need to do to rebuild what we have now? And focusing on what is here rather than what we can divinely find, like what plane of existence can we find these gods in to bring them back home?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like there's a little bit to it where it just feels like we're just surviving, which leads to a whole plethora of different things. There's a lot of different things to be done as players, you know. Hey, do we betray another settlement for the betterment of our settlement? Who's right and who's wrong? I think it's another one of those things that can be morally gray. Is like, what's more important, my survival, the people I care about survival, or everyone's survival?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's really a wrong answer in all that. But this one, it leads to less of the, I'm the hero of the story to hey, I'm a guy surviving. I'm a player just trying to survive and do what's best for me, my family, my party, or my community.
And I think tying into death and surviving, I think, I mean, we've talked about death, but we didn't really, like, the one thing about the game and the system itself, or the frame itself, is because the gods are gone, like, death is more important because we no longer have people, like, there's no afterlife. Like, without the divine guidance, there is no souls passing on. Unless, and this is where I think, Adam, you alluded to, unless you give someone a death via sacred light, or in the fire. Like, there has to be a proper burial, because if you die out in the world, you are exiled to all rights and you are just a lingering spirit.
Is there not? I may be getting ahead of myself here, but is there an end to the Age of Umbra? Do we know? Is that just maybe something that's purposely unwritten to let the GM and the world builders or the group decide that that's what they do? Or
I don't know. I think all the campaign frames, there's not really an end. I think, with the exception of 2, the only 2 campaign frames that I think have an end is Beast Feast, which we have gone over, which is, you're fixing the lure. So the end has to be when the lure ends, or when the lure is fixed. And then Colossus of the Drylands, which will be, I think, next episode. I think we're jumping around. And if you want to know what happens in that and how that story is intended to end, definitely catch next week's episode, or the next episode. But I think in this one, like, you you are supposed to see where the story takes you. Because I definitely see, like, even though the gods are gone, maybe there's one god who wants to come back, right? Like later on, like the Seraph player hears these voices. Think a la the Voice of America, right? Is it
But
Voice of
yeah,
America?
yeah,
In like Elden Ring, where you hear these like voices that's calling you to something, and you eventually find that, and then it's a ritual to restore or corrupt. Who knows? It's totally up to your players and how the other persisting voices want them to stay and want them to die. Or it could just be the campaign ends with building a civilization, or the campaign ends with a somber, we survived the cataclysmic beast that was going to wipe out the entire village, or like the strong the
Yeah, kind of one of my questions in that is like, what is the point for the player? Because there's no, as a baseline frame, it doesn't feel like there's a hope to accomplish anything aside from just live. Unless that's kind of the point, is that you are just people that are the enduring, you're trying to survive, and that's pretty much the sole purpose of your existence is just stay alive.
well, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but it's a lot like The Walking Dead, where that kind of is. It's like it's the testament of the human will, or of people's will to survive, and I think it's just a testament to the not just roll over and take it sort of mentality. But like again, that's another. I think it's another concept that can be played with in game, though. Also, that's also another interesting storytelling point.
and so I'm looking through the player principles a little bit here, where the first one is treat community as a means of survival. And it really talks, I think, community and trying to and fighting for the town you're in, which I believe in the session 0 questions, I think you are building your town together. Like you're building
Hmm.
where you're from. You're talking about where you came from. I mean, that's one thing at least Matt did in the Critical Role session 0, where they talked about like, what is the name of this town? Where are you all hailing from? And then from there, it was basically like, we need to make sure that this town's up and running because we have people here that we need to protect, and giving everybody, like building everyone's like skin in the game, which I also think from the GM side of things, it is. So one of the other principle I mean, I love Grimdark. So this is like, this is my realm, and it's one of the principles here, but it's also one of the things that I fundamentally as a GM love, is in a setting where darkness is the main theme. The most powerful tool you have as a GM is the exposure of light, and like giving players something to hope for, because it does become very nihilistic, I think, for what you're saying, Adam. Like in a society where nothing matters, nothing matters. And I even think that's also a point to build a character, even with that nihilistic perspective. It's like, what's the point of this? And I think when you look at a nihilist, like in the real world, I think oftentimes the perspective of none of this matters. But when you put a nihilist up to wrestle with death, they still don't want to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of psychological studies that have been done in like the real world, where people who feel like they have nothing, just giving them simple goals to accomplish, it gives them something to live for, essentially. So I think that's a real life thing that can be applied into the game. I mean, we've all used TTRPGs as therapy, every now and again. So there's just a lot of interesting things to explore as a player in this game.
Yeah, I mean, so when we're exploring through a lot of these player characters and archetypes that we can kind of go through, I mean, you have a handful of different organizations, quote unquote. You have the Pyre Keepers, who are kind of these individuals who are, their whole purpose is protecting the flame. You have the Enduring, which is for the most part everyone. And then you have people who are specifically like their goal, and or like their job is like to go out and hunt. And so I think with this idea of Age of Umbra, you are building yourself as a member of the community, which I think leads me to a question. And we asked this, we've done this a couple times in the other campaign frames. What kind of character would you be most interested in exploring? I have thoughts, but I'm curious what yours
It's
are.
always so hard because I feel like I want to try all
What
of them at
I
one
mean, we
point.
can talk about multiple characters. We don't have to just keep it to one.
Yeah.
I mean, we've played an Age of Umbra. Like AJ, you've played an
Yeah.
Age of Umbra character. I've played an Age of Umbra character, which I did not like my Age of Umbra character. I was not happy with how it turned out. I'll start. My Age of Umbra
You go.
character that
Yeah.
I played was a man who just wanted to die, but was cursed with the ability to not die, which never really got explored because it was a one shot, which is always sucky. But the way I played it as a reborn. So it was a person who has died, but they came with this curse where their body physically couldn't. And I would have, in a longer form of campaign, I would have loved to take the zombie-esque transformation card, which basically anytime I make a death move, I can't die. And so the character, from a roleplay standpoint, would be like, just eat me, just kill me over and over again, but couldn't. And the premise that I had is like, they've seen way too many people die. Like since the Halcyon domain left, he's been around for who knows how long, simply just wants to die. I think it would have been cooler in a longer game, but in a one shot, it literally was I just want to kill myself, but for some reason I built the character too strong and I could not die.
Right.
I think it would be fun to explore. I kind of like the duty-bound pyre keepers, the people that are just their purpose of their existence is to make sure that this fire stays alit, the flame keeps going, and that is pretty much it. I know in the Critical Role there was a character that kind of fit that mold. I would like to explore more of the I guess the like scholastic side of that as well, because there are certainly texts about other cities and texts about history, and kind of try to dive into my duty is here to maintain this pyre, but also have a hunger for knowledge to like try to figure out what the heck's going on and why the world is the way that it is and how we could maybe fix it.
Yeah, I think thinking about Walking Dead for that one, I think his name was Glenn. No, not Glenn. Glenn was the other guy.
Gillian.
Eugene, who had the cure.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Eugene, and
I
then
know
there
you're
was
talking about
the
the redheaded
military.
guy, redheaded
Yeah.
military guy, and then the girl. Yeah, I know you're talking
But
about.
I think the interesting twist that really did catch me off guard was Eugene said that he had a cure and said like, oh, this is a highly classified mission and the god, like, I mean, in this world, like the god sent me or whatever, but it was all a lie. Like he was being escorted this whole time. And I think that would be a very interesting thing to like, even from a faith standpoint, believe that there's a will in the world. And then I don't know, something later down the line, you find the shrine of this god and you see a very clear body of the god being dead. Like that would be,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would play
Man,
with as a GM.
how crazy. I mean, you'd have to be a crazy character, a crazy person to play a character, start from session 0, knowing I'm going to say that I know the cure and see how long I can milk that lie until the party finds out. Like that's an insane. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
That's something I would do. But that's wild. I just thought about that now, like as a character in a game. It's like, man, just lying to your whole party for,
Into your
I mean, it
friends.
could be years. It could be a years long campaign until they find out that there's, you didn't know anything this whole time.
AJ, what
Anyways,
would you play?
my character. So I played a character in a one shot as well. It was a wizard, and I kind of dove into what Adam was saying a little bit. My character's whole spiel was to get as much research as he could about the Age of Umbra. So he was all about going into different tombs and crypts and dungeons, just anywhere he could find information to see if there is a possible end somewhere in sight. So I think in a long form that would also be really cool. Just not hoarding knowledge, but just collecting knowledge to see if there is an end, to see what caused it. Can it be counteracted? Stuff like that. So I think that would also just be a lot of fun, just being that researcher. But yeah, talking about playing, we should just talk about what Age of Umbra does to Daggerheart, because it changes the game quite a bit from the base game.
Yeah, I think the first one to really represent death is the GM crits on champion criticals. So on a
Okay.
19 and a 20, They just double the amount of opportunities they have to crit. Which for some reason, once you get the opportunity to double your crits, you do crit more.
Yeah, weird. That's
You're
how
going from
statistics work.
5% to 10%. I mean, that's a
It's
pretty
wild
significant.
statistics.
It is, but it feels like you hit it like significantly more. Like I feel like there's always 19s and 20s once somebody gets it. Like every
Yeah.
time someone would play a fighter or something that gets that feature in D&D, like I felt like I was always getting critted on. And then as a GM, it's only happened a couple times, but I felt like I was critting pretty well once we were in the Age of Umbra campaign.
Yeah. The crit fishing GM.
Yeah. The next one is going to be the rest mechanics. So the rest mechanics essentially are, as we know, when you take a long rest, you can heal your armor, heal your health, or repair your armor, restore health, clear stress. You can do work on projects. But there is a special mechanic here called Keep Watch. When you keep watch as one of the players, whenever you rest, there's always something that could happen. Think of this like as like random encounters where on a 1 or 2, something will come out and attack you and stop you from resting. So you can't even complete the rest yet. You're just attacked mid-rest. On a 12, nothing happens and you actually, the PC who or each PC actually gains a hope. So you want the higher number. What the keep watch mechanic does during rest, if someone decides to take it, the GM will roll a d12 and the player will also roll a d12. And the player gets to choose without knowing what the GM rolled, whether they take the GM's roll or their own roll. So say the player rolls a 5, they can choose to take the GM's roll or the player's roll, not knowing if that's the GM rolled higher, which is more likely, or if the GM rolled lower, which getting lower than 5, you're getting into that 1-2 territory and you are about to get hit. The other parts are like GM gets extra fear, or a player, nothing happens if you roll kind of towards the top or higher end of the pack, I think
Higher
11
middle.
and 10s. Yeah. So things get bad during rest. GM gets more fear, more abilities to do like progress long-term countdowns, which does lean into players have a higher chance of dying too. I haven't messed around with these mechanics very often, but I do think it's fun having seen it watched as an actual play.
Yeah, with the lurking darkness mechanics, it's just keeps solidifying the fact that this game is Age of Umbra is not for the faint of heart. This is not the hey, I'm going to run over every encounter that the GM throws at me. Running is a valid option in Age of
It
Umbra.
always has been. I mean, it's
It
always
always
has been
has
in general.
It's been. But I mean, if you're anything like me, I'm like, no, I'm not running from a bad guy in front of me. That's why I built this character is to smash things or whatever. Age of Umbra kind of takes that away, where it's like, hey, we need to live to fight another day. And yeah, so that lurking darkness really sets that tone of this is it's tense. This is serious.
Which is even worse when it comes to death, because just like Strength of Hate, which was the nat 19 and 20 crits, an Umbra creature, if you are fighting one and the GM has enough fear, they can, if they kill a PC and they go down, Blaze of Glory, Risk It All, whatever it may be, the GM can spend a fear and immediately raise them up as a zombie of some kind, which did happen
Oh yeah,
on the
it did.
show. And
Spoilies.
I mean, at this point, we've talked
We have
enough about the
spoiled a
show.
lot,
Enough
sorry.
is spoiled.
We'll put a spoiler warning in the beginning,
Yeah.
hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, it's when the GM has fear after killing a PC, there is no opportunity for you to give them a proper death. They immediately become Umbra touched and they are not able to die peacefully. I mean, that's the theme. Like, you wrestle with that, not being able to bury your friend. Like, I think that's a thing that even as like from the human aspect of things, like if someone were to die, the worst possible thing would be not being able to go to their funeral. Like that, as someone who, I haven't wrestled with a lot of personal death, but if someone were to die and not being able to kind of have that last moment, and ultimately it is a little bit of a selfish moment. The funeral is not for the person who's dead, right? The funeral is not for them. The funeral is for the people that show up to the funeral. It is for them to have their last moments. I think my personal favorite tradition is the celebration of life rather than just like
Mhm.
the mourning of death. But
Age of Umbra just one-ups that, and they're like, not only do you not get to go to the funeral, you have to kill them again,
yeah,
or they're going to kill you, which
Yeah, no,
obviously
I
you can't let
just
that
killed
happen.
them. Now you killed
which that is such a rough mechanic. Like that really does well to express the campaign frame.
I mean, good stories can be sad stories.
But there is one mechanic that I think is beneficial to the players, which is going to be the fiery beacons. So this kind of talks a little bit about the sacred pyres. This is going to be where there are with a sacred pyre. If you are in a town or city with a sacred pyre, you do not have to worry about the lurking darkness. You don't have to worry about having to keep watch. You are safe unless something bad happens. And if you're out in the world, there are relics known as blessed branches that work similar to sacred pyres, which reinvigorate everybody with hope. So I think everyone gains 3 hope, which for everyone who has played Daggerheart, that gives you the ability to use your class feature, gives you the ability to tag team. Very, very powerful magic.
Not nothing.
But it also narratively should repel everything that's not a incredibly powerful monster. So you're not repelling a hypothetical, I don't know, what's a Godvoken, whatever, if that's a creature's name, but that zombie is probably going to run away from you.
Yeah, it makes it's a glimmer of hope that will keep your PCs going. Sometimes, a lot of times, that's all it takes is just the one spark to keep a story alive, to keep the will to continue on uh, as a player and as a person. It's weird. It's like getting that hope in a hopeless sort of setting. It feels it feels much more appreciated.
Especially when you have like GM abilities that take away players' hope, the GM should be, I think in this system, more adversarial than others. And I think that also comes into like the sessions era of like, how deadly do you want this? But I'd also say, if you want it less deadly, maybe look at a different frame. I think you'll enjoy the frame more if you do embrace death, which I think is one of the player principles, and making sure that you understand that this is what you're signing up for and embracing how lethal it is. But yeah, and so when your players come to the expectation that death is right around the corner, I think the GM should, to play into this frame and do it justice, be more adversarial. Like, offer those moments of light, offer the moments when the players overcome darkness where they do feel good, but then make it where they know that something is right around the corner. Make it where they hear the howling winds in the distance that need them to run. If things are going bad, I would say a lot of GMs, like, you kill one PC, you kill a second PC, and you're like, ooh, maybe I should pull back. It's like, I think to play the frame best, the GM should look for that third PC to kill. And it's not the GM's fault in the system with an expectation of death if the players don't run. Because I think at that point there should be a group role. A player who's stronger grabs the wizard, well, hypothetically, because wizards can be strong in the system,
Mm-hmm.
grabs the wizard, sorcerer, rogue, whatever, and takes off with them. Like, you forcibly pull someone out of the fight that is struggling to deal with the fact that they just lost players. And I think with that, it really lends to where it breaks from Elden Ring is where the players are intended to role play and grapple with death, even mid combat, which you don't do in Dark Souls. You don't stop moving in Dark Souls. You start rolling,
Yeah.
and if you're too heavy, you start fat rolling. So you go. You do not let that. You do not take hits. You run, or you cannot run, because once you're instanced in a game of Dark Souls, you are fighting that thing. Either it's going down or you are. But in this system, you have those moments to grapple.
I think one cool thing in this system is, because it is so deadly, unless you're running a one shot, not every time should you just default to Blaze of Glory because it's cool. And, rolling just 50-50 shots, see what happens. Well, I guess you have a little more than 50-50, but just rolling to either get health back or die isn't always the best shot either. So the other option is to just fall unconscious, which is cool. But there's the mechanic of getting a scar, which not only are you in an environment where a lot of enemies can take your fear or take your hope, now you're also, every time you get downed, you're going to have to roll to see if you're going to get a scar. And now not have 6 hope. Now you have a max of 5. Now you have a max of 4. And when you stack those things on top of your enemies actively taking your hope, it can literally turn into a hopeless campaign for a player.
There is a benefit, though, in this system. When you do take scars in this system, you do deal more damage. For the amount of scars that you have, you get extra damage for it. The Umbra, like anytime I think you take a scar, the game suggests that you should describe what this looks like, describe what the scar looks like, how it manifests on your body. Does it add things? Does it remove things? Does it leave something behind? And in this system, I think it's very clear that for the most part, it's leaving something behind. Though it definitely could add a shadow, but you do gain a power from the Umbra that is slowly eating you because there's not really a way to get that back outside of you working with your GM.
So how would one go about starting this campaign? Like where for you would you start a new group of adventurers, a new party in this world setting?
So I think the first thing that you would probably do is do the whole session 0 thing, build your characters together. There's all sorts of with every campaign frame, it talks about how each ancestry is a little bit different, how clanks are kind of vessels for spirits, stuff like that. Talks about how the splendor domain is a little different and how I would almost even argue that the splendor domain might even feel like that's a domain that gets lost. I think that would be interesting. But your relationship with the splendor domain is supposed to be tied to the gods. It talks about communities. So whether you lived in a highborn or ridgeborn society, what that looked like and how that community would have survived. I think those are important places. And then the session 0 stuff, we talked about how deadly do you want this campaign to be? Talked about building the town you're from. The inciting incident that they have in the book, which I think is interesting. I haven't looked into this too much. It wasn't necessarily a story that I was completely compelled by, but it follows this kind of hunting band of Headmaster Evrados, something like that. But essentially has been kind of lost in a chasm of some sorts, the Shalt Chasm, and you as an adventuring party, so it kind of or not as an adventuring party, you as individuals from the town are sent to go find this kind of wailing sound in the chasm. And so you're trying to find where Huntmaster Evrados is, where his hunting bands are, and because if you don't have a hunting band, that's food supply that you're missing. So it's volunteers, these new people who are seeking out the person who helps provide for the town. And so I think that's an interesting one. I think you can totally run that. But you can also just ask your players. I always will sit with, if you have a player that is a pyre keeper, why would a pyre keeper leave their post? Ask your players the question, what would be the one reason you'd leave the city? And then maybe that sparks an opportunity for session 1. Maybe in connection questions, you figure out that 2 people have a loved one that is not in the city, and they get a letter from a messenger that says that their loved one is wandering a location. I think for me, with what is the biggest strength in Daggerheart is the emergent storytelling and just opening the story based on what your players do. But the inciting incident is also just a great place to get your feet wet for level 1. But I think the inciting incident also, you kind of want to have your players tie into that background.
Yeah.
Especially because the world is so big.
Yeah. It just kind of got me thinking that having your players that build so much of this story with the GM, I feel like just adds so much in such a dark, grim, hopeless sort of setting. Let your players kind of give you it's a great question. Why does your character want to survive the Age of Umbra? Or what would bring a spark to your character? I think something like that, one, it kind of focuses them in, and 2, it connects them to the story so much more. It just lets their character get way more personal and connected to the Age of Umbra, to the whole campaign. We talked about reasons why they want to go on. Well, let them create that reason.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to be the GM creating those things for you. Players take a lot of agency and create those things yourself. I know, at least with Daniel being my primary GM, I've definitely have thrown him some crazy curveballs every now and again.
And then I hit back and you're like, what the hell did you do with my NPC?
Yeah. So, just like any other game, be part of the creating process. Again, this is storytelling, and the whole goal is to create a really great story together.
Yeah, which I think one thing I really love about the campaign frame specifically, and we did this with Witherwild, is you get this large map of a lot of stuff. And I think with that, like Evrados is somewhere here within the Shulk Chasm is what it references. But then there's all these names of places that exist that are not marked yet on the map. Like what is this? What is this? This loop-de-loop. Oh wait, that's a pyre keeper. Never mind. That's a pyre. That's just. But like, what is the name of this pyre town? There's a sacred pyre here within the Ash Quarter. What is in Okros? What is the deal with this bridge? What happened here? Because this is actually the bridge in the campaign art. Like you can fill out how your Age of Umbra campaign looks specifically. Because if Path of Golden Judgment is here in one campaign, and then Path of Golden Judgment is this town, like two totally different campaigns already right off the bat. And yeah, I think with that, with the campaign frame, kind of this brief overview, this is definitely not all of Age of Umbra. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you don't look at the actual book itself and rip into the campaign frame. Obviously, there's resources online with the fact that Critical Role did an actual play that we've spoiled a little bit about, but definitely go watch it if you haven't. But I think that brings us to the end of our episode.
Do you guys have any questions about Age of Umbra or Witherwild Beast, anything, Daggerheart, feel free to join the Discord. One of three of us are usually online most times throughout the day. We'd love to chat. Just, if you don't have a question, we just talk about Daggerheart and TTRPGs. Yeah, but if you have questions, anything like that, anything you guys want to see, hit us up in Discord.
And if you're interested in Daggerheart, you haven't played before, you might be new, that's fine. If you're curious about it, go ahead and hop in the Discord. Both of these guys run games. Daniel runs a ton of games. So we have community games every month. There's a lot of opportunity to get to play and just get into the system. And you're more than welcome to join us. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keep up with us on the next things that we're doing. We'll be coming out with new videos and all that fun stuff here coming up.
So yeah, anyways, this is a Sage Touch. Let's run the end clip. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Welcome to the Sage Touch Podcast. Welcome to the Sage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the Sage. This is Sage Touch.